Welcome to the Bishop Kevin Foreman Leadership Podcast. I got my guest with me. This is part 2 of dealing with a Judas. Let's get it. Let's go.
And we love people, and you know we love life. Love life, love God, and we love people, and you know we love life.
Welcome back to the Bishop Kevin Foreman Leadership Podcast. We help leaders go further, faster. I've got with me the love and life coach, the hip-hop apostle himself, Dr. Dale Lawrence. Listen, we did an amazing part 1. The response was amazing. I mean, because everybody's going to deal with the Judas, no matter what business or industry you're in. You know, the Bishop Kevin Foreman Leadership Podcast is all about empowering leaders to go further, faster in the 7 spheres of society: arts and entertainment, business, education, government, media, family, church, and spirituality. And so no matter what, you're going to deal with the Judas. In part 1, we talked about how a Judas is always going to be present when there's something, when purpose is present. We talked about how Judas doesn't mean you're doing something wrong, and in fact, it means you're doing something right. We talked about how God will use a Judas to help advance you. Here's what I want to focus on. How do you deal with that? Because I made this question, and I said this question in part 1. It doesn't, even though I know that it means I'm doing something right, even though I know that it's advancing me, it doesn't take away the humanity of the pain. Luke 22 is when Jesus dealt with his Judas. And I want to pull out a few things. Number 1, you never see Jesus check Judas. He only checks or corrects Peter. So the first point I want to bring out, when you identify someone as a Judas, you need to then withdraw and withhold your pour. Now that's going to be a controversial leadership principle, because most people will think they can change a Judas. Can you change a Judas? Yes or no?
No, of course not. I started to say something else. No, you can't. Heck no. Right. No, you cannot change the Judas. And you don't want to change the Judas, because you change the trajectory of the transition God is trying to take you to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is so good. If you get rid of your Judas, you get rid of your cross. You get rid of your cross, you get rid of your crown.
That's it.
If you get rid of your Judas, you do not get to graduate to your next. In other words, a Judas is, oh God, this is about to shout me. A Judas is like the final test before a level up.
That's so good. And listen, and how you deal with a Judas, you kiss a Judas.
That's it. That's it. That's it. So Jesus never checked him.
You embrace him.
He never checked him. He never corrected him. Now, let's just back up. From part 1, we learned that Judas' name means a peephole through a door. His surname means a son of a traitor. So his nature is to not be loyal, which means you can't change his nature. Jesus' love didn't change his nature. Being around Jesus for 3.5 years didn't change his nature. If Jesus, the perfect leader, couldn't change a Judas and didn't even try, then that means it's foolery for us to try to do that. So for some leader, before we even get to the kiss, let's deal with the pre-kiss, which is that free yourself from feeling like you failed as a leader because you couldn't get someone to do right by you. Free yourself from feeling like, man, I should have been a better manager, should have been a better leader. I shouldn't have said it that way, I shouldn't have done it that way. Jesus didn't even try to address Judas because he knew Judas' nature. You said something just a second ago, so powerful. If you get rid of your Judas, you're going to forfeit the transition in your life. Let's deal with Judas in Luke 22. He comes up, and this is where you mentioned the kiss. He comes up and he kisses Jesus on the cheek. Here's my belief. I want to hear your take. He kisses Judas on the cheek, not only because that was going to be the signal to tell everybody else, this is the guy, as if they didn't know who he was or what he looked like in the first place. I believe that emotional, because that was common in Hebrew culture, to greet one another with a kiss. Men, women, it was common in culture. What's amazing to me is I think that Judas used that kiss to try to get Jesus to be emotional, to pull him into his humanity, to get him emotional, so that instead of moving forward, he goes into his humanity and says, Judas, why are you doing me like this? Judas, I was the only man that gave you a chance. Judas, why are you leaving me? Judas, why are you doing that? And too many leaders are running after your Judas and you're ignoring your John. Talk about the kiss.
So your philosophy is he kisses him to move him
into emotion, to get him into, because think about it. If you're emotional as a leader, you're not going to make a great decision.
No, you're not.
So in that moment, when he kisses him, Jesus is thinking of when he found him 3.5 years ago. He's thinking about all the years they've been together. He's thinking about all the times he's prayed for him. He's thinking about all the healings they've seen. If I kiss him on the cheek, I'm coming in a friendly manner to get him in his emotions so that he doesn't. And I can talk about this as a person who has dealt with and a leader who has dealt with multiple Judases, I can be honest about the fact that where you can begin to mess up internally and backtrack is you get in your emotions. When you get emotional, you stop thinking about it from a leadership standpoint. You stop thinking about the mission. You stop thinking about the movement. And now you're thinking about a man that, truth be told, has never really been with you in the first place.
And you know what? I have to agree with you and just go add some remix to it. I think it pulled him in emotionally to wear on that sense that every leader has, because a leader is loyal.
Right.
That's a nature in all leaders. If you are a true leader, you are a loyalist because you have to be loyal to your call. Right. Loyal to your assignment.
Right.
So it automatically makes you a loyalist. The problem there is Judas is a liar.
Right.
So we get loyal to the light.
Wow.
So when you pull me in emotionally, I stop seeing you for the lie. And I'm loyal to the ideal.
Whoa. We got to stop right there. Wait a minute. You don't just drive past that fast. Turn this car around and go back. You can become loyal to the ideal, loyal to the principle. It's like you're loyal to loyalty.
Yeah. I mean, Jesus is like, I put 3 years into you.
3.5.
I handpicked you.
Right.
So I know you lying. I know this is a setup, but I still got hope.
That's why I kissed him. That's why I kissed him. Because if I can get him to let his guard down, to get him emotional, he'll miss the magnitude of the moment. Because imagine if Jesus broke down crying in the garden. Imagine if Jesus broke down, don't do me like this, Judas, don't do me like this, don't do that, and all of that. Jesus, let's back up to earlier in Luke 22, where Jesus says this. They're all at the table, and Jesus tells them, go do what you got to do and do it quickly. Here's what I want to do with the last few minutes. Let's look at some traits of a Judas. We know what it means from a technical standpoint. Let's deal with some traits. I'll do the first. We'll just go back and forth. One trait of a Judas is that a Judas is someone that is disloyal, right, to what we just talked about. How are you having conversations with my enemies? And these are conversations where you're trying to betray me to my enemies. You can't be loyal to what's not loyal to me and that be acceptable. So this is a principle for every person in business, ministry, whatever. A Judas is disloyal. What you got?
A Judas has a hidden agenda.
Right.
Driven by ambition.
Right.
Watch out for the red flakes. You know how people say red flags?
Mm-hmm.
I like to say red flakes because before you see the red flags, you're gonna see drippings.
Little flake, right?
Little sayings, little face gesture.
Right.
Like I've studied this, and I've seen people in certain situations. Okay, I saw your spirit. I saw your side eye.
Mm-hmm.
And watch this. And I tried to bleach the red flag.
Ooh! Don't bleach it.
Don't
bleach the red flag and don't
I
miss the
tried
red
to
flag.
bleach it with hope. I tried to bleach it with making excuses for him.
That's so good. That's so good. You know what I love about that? I'm just to add. I think when you're paying attention to that, is Judas was dishonest. So that'd be the third trait. Bible says that he was stealing from Jesus the whole time. Jesus knew, and so did the others. But again, Jesus never addressed it because he knew that this was all part of the plan. But to your point, Judas, how is it that you are not committed to building what we're building, so much so that you're trying to take from it? So Judas you'll be able to identify a Judas because nothing that they do builds. Nothing that they do grows. They're really a liability, not an asset. You just grown comfortable to having them around. I'm gonna say that again. You're comfortable to having them around. They really don't do that much. You're not doing anything to help us, Judas.
They're leeches.
Right. That's good.
But they're very vocal. They give the appearance of support.
Come on. Always got something to say. Always got something.
The loudest one in the crew.
But the one that's not doing anything.
But produces nothing.
Nothing. And let's get Bible to back that up. We gotta wrap this up. This is so good. We're gonna have to come back to this later. When Mary Magdalene came, she has the expensive perfume where she anoints Jesus' feet. Now this mark, Judas is stealing. The Bible says, Judas says, why'd she do that? We could have took that money and fed the poor. John, with his petty self in his gospel, says he only said this because he wanted the money for himself because he was stealing. In other words, as if we didn't know. Nobody else, none of the other 11 said anything. They celebrated. And Judas, the one who's stealing, is the one that always had something to say. So here's the last principle for Judas. Judas is the loudest, most unproductive person on your team. That's Judas. They got a lot to say about everything. Why we got to do this? How come we got to do this? Why we got to change this? Why we got to? And when you go look at their productivity, they don't produce much. They don't produce much. And you can't believe in the hope of who you want them to be. You have to believe in the reality of who they are. Listen, guys, we got to go. This was amazing. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you. This was good. Guys, if the podcast blessed you, sow into it. Always bless what blesses you. The giving methods are on the screen right now. Maybe it's 50, maybe it's 100, maybe it's 1,000, maybe it's 10,000. Business owners connect to Harvest. I'm anointed for business owners and for business entrepreneurs and people to do well. But you don't just have to be an entrepreneur or business owner. These are principles you can use. Let's give them one more principle. You ready? You already know who they are. Because the Judas is never a stranger. If you're trying to figure out who is it, they're already at your table. They're already at your table. It's never a stranger. That's an enemy, not a Judas. There's an enemy. Dr. Dale Lawrence, thank you, sir, for being with me. Part 1, Part 2. The People's Bishop. Listen, this has been.
And listen, let me add this before I go. Everybody that's listening, you find you a leader like the great Bishop Kevin Foreman. I'm telling you right now, you're only as good as who's leading you. And you cannot call yourself a leader if you are not first a follower.
Wow.
Stay connected.
That's it. Text Harvest to 55498. And you can connect. You're part of the Harvest Leadership Network. Connect with all of the amazing things God is doing. That's amazing, man of God. And just so y'all know, I didn't tell him to say that. That's from his heart. That's from his heart. And that speaks to a leader should be spoken well of when he's not asking anyone to speak well of him.
Come on now. Come on.
That is what it is. Love you. Appreciate you all. Leaders, go take some territory. Shalom. This has been the Bishop Kevin Foreman Leadership Podcast.
And we love people. And you know we love life. Love life. Love God. And we love people. And you know we love life.